What's up guys, Jurassic here, also known as Richard Manzo, and today we're going to be talking about why Jurassic World Dominion is the best film in the Jurassic World franchise. Now, since the movie's opening on Friday, its ratings have only gone down, and it's left me a little confused for a few reasons, like how the hell does Fallen Kingdom have a higher rating in this movie? Fallen Kingdom is by far the worst of the World trilogy. It's the most pathetic cash grab attempt in this universe, but we're not here to talk about why that movie sucks, we're here to talk about why Dominion does not suck. Now, before we start this, is Dominion a great movie? No, I can't really say that, but it's definitely not the worst. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and get into it, and there's no denying that the greatest part of Jurassic World Dominion is the original characters returning. Now, I was very nervous having the original cast return for a couple of reasons, like I didn't want them to become butchered. They just felt so different from this universe, and I just didn't want them to have, like, you know, forced, like, shitty MCU kind of humor.
Scooby-Doo this crap!
But thankfully, none of that was in this movie. It just feels all natural and just like a real continuation of the original trilogy. Also, they have a lot to do in this movie. Well, besides Ian, but Ian gets the lesser of the screen time, but Alan and Ellie really have a lot to do. They're a central part of this story, as well as Ian, and they're given a surprising amount of screen time, given half of the screen time in this movie, and that's why this movie instantly becomes better, because it has something the previous Jurassic World films does not, and that's the original characters. Really though, just having Laura Dern, Sam Neill, and Jeff Goldblum reprise their roles, it just feels like a little sprinkle of magic from the first is back in this franchise. Of the original cast returning, the best by far are the interactions between Alan and Ellie. Now, if you're a big Jurassic Park fan like I am, I watched the original 3 before this movie, and every single time I watch it, it just breaks my heart to see Alan and Ellie separated like that. And now this movie, it had to exist only for one purpose and one purpose only, and that is the scene where they finally end up together. I was the only person who was cheering. I couldn't contain my excitement for it, but it is actually so satisfying, and it really does fix a problem in this original trilogy. Now you can go back and watch Jurassic Park 1 and 3, and it feels so much better knowing where the characters are going to go, because you really feel a lot for Alan in this movie. He never wanted kids, and I'm sure that's why they separated, and you can tell he regrets that every single day of his life. He even says in the movie, you know, I'm not happy, I wasn't happy, and he just becomes so isolated and lonely. And now seeing that Ellie has kids and they're all grown up, she just wasn't satisfied without Alan in their life. And so now they ended up together, and it's beautiful to watch. Now, Ian doesn't get as much screen time as the others, but he's still super funny in the movie. He has a lot of great humor, and it sort of feels like a continuation of The Lost World as well, because in Jurassic Park 1, he was more of the laid-back, cool, rock star kind of scientist. In Jurassic Park The Lost World, he was more of like a PTSD, like veteran almost. Like he had a lot of trauma from that first one. Now it feels like he's naturally gotten over it, and he's just doing everything he can to advise people what not to do, and it feels very natural for his character. And I also like how he's involved in the scheming of bringing down Biosyn, similar how he was with InGen in The Lost World. Just the banter between the trio of them is great. It just feels like they're just stepping right out of the original film, and what else can you ask for? Like, this is the life of the movie. Now, the least interesting part of the movie are the original Jurassic World characters, but you know, I gotta say, I gotta give them credit, they are better in this movie. Owen and Claire are actually the best they've ever been in the franchise. A problem I have with Jurassic World 1 and 2 is that it feels a lot like the same movie, just sort of recycled. Owen and Claire used to date, they have to learn to love each other throughout the movie, and then they end up together at the end of the movie. That happens twice. It's like in between Jurassic World 1 and 2, the writers just forgot to continue their story, and so last minute they had to copy and paste the story beats from the first script. Here, I mean, it's actually nice to see them kind of settle into their roles more. They're, you know, like a husband and wife, really, and they just accept each other for who they are, and they live in a small little cabin in Utah, I think. 4 years have also passed since the last movie, so they're now assuming a role of like surrogate parents to the clone girl, who actually is not bad. And that's another huge positive about this movie. There's no annoying kids in Jurassic World Dominion. In Jurassic World 1, the 2 kids in that they were just nothing. It was just blank, white bread, nothing, just annoying. In Jurassic World 2, that kid would not shut the fuck up and stop screaming. The second he showed up in this movie, I went, oh my god, we're fucked. But thankfully, they just did away with him really quick. They wrote him off, and that's by far one of the best choices. There's no annoying kids in this movie. Parenthood also seems to be kind of like a running theme in this movie, because then we also have Blue and Beta. I do wish that Blue was in this movie, though, more. Blue is one of the highlights of the Jurassic World franchise, and even though it's nice to see the humans kind of on their own for once, it would have been nice to have Blue do more. But I was also surprised though with just how well the cast, the old and new, actually clashed together. It was a lot of fun and I liked their interactions. It didn't feel like everybody was kind of competing for like the funniest joke in the room or like the one-liners. It was a lot more natural and everybody felt more human in this movie. The comedy really does work though. I mean, Ian unlocking the gate is hilarious, like him running through the 10,000 combinations and Alan getting mad at the Starbucks guy for not knowing what a macchiato was and just being out of touch. They just wrote it very well. All the characters are within themselves, and even Chris Pratt has a more subtle humor in this. Like, it doesn't feel forced like the other movies, like where he's trying to be Star-Lord. Everything just feels a lot more natural. Something interesting about Chris Pratt in this movie too is the lack of control he has, and specifically with the dinosaurs. And all of the others, he could basically just tell Blue to sit and roll over like a dog. But in this one, the dinosaurs actually are treated more like animals, and it makes everything feel like more grounded. Like there's just no control on the dinosaurs. They can do whatever they want. This is the only movie where Chris Pratt doesn't have Blue to protect him constantly, and it really adds to the stakes of the scenes where you realize it's just them on their own. They have to fight these dinosaurs and survive this little island and get off by themselves. The movie as a whole just feels more grounded than the other two because there's no hybrid dinosaurs, no fleet of raptors being controlled or on motorcycles, and dinosaurs, they just feel more dangerous in this movie. Dominion also moves away from the weaponized dinosaurs in the military plot, which is fun, but also really one of the dumbest parts of the Jurassic World series. There's still a few moments in Dominion though where you're like, really? Like, was she really just able to Jason Bourne that rooftop? But like, there's less of that in this movie, and it's forgivable. The villains of the movie also feel way more believable, if you could call them villains. I mean, Dawson, played by Peter Parker's dad, returns from the first Jurassic Park movie, but not played by the same actor, since it turns out he's actually a sex offender.
Dodson! Dodson! We've got Dodson here!
FBI, open
It's a glass half full or empty kind of thing with him. On one hand, he doesn't really do much throughout the movie, but he also isn't a mustache twirling villain like previous films where people complained about. He's just a guy. I like the scene where Ian was actually confronting Dawson, but it was funny because I thought, like he was gonna have him killed, but he's like, just clear out your desk. And it's realistic, he's just a sleazy corporate guy like he was in the first movie. I also liked how they have a curse now with the Barbasol can. Whoever touches that can will be eaten by the Dilophosaurus. Now, something else I want to talk about as well is the cinematography. The cinematography in this film is noticeably better than the other two. This one has a more naturalistic style to it. Not everything is that saturated blue and teal Michael Bay Transformers look. There's some real beautiful shots in this, and one of my biggest gripes with this movie is actually that they took out the prologue that was originally supposed to be the opening of the movie. Just the dinosaurs look fantastic in it, but unfortunately they cut it out. I don't know why they would do that. And it's way better than Fallen Kingdom cinematography as well. I mean, it doesn't beat the original by far. The first 2 or even 3 has some really good scenes. But this movie definitely has some solid cinematography in it. This movie also has a lot of good practical effects, actual like animatronic dinosaurs and puppets and such, and it just, everything is more believable in this. I really feel like the actors are actually there feeling and touching something more. Now, like I said, this is not a perfect movie, and there are a couple gripes I have with the movie. Like, I think the ending finale is a little weird with the T-Rex and Therizinosaurus. Like, I thought that the finale of Jurassic World was actually better, where the T-Rex fought the Indominus Rex. Like, I thought that was a better conclusion. And something that I have just a gripe with this whole trilogy is that it feels very out of place. Like, the Indominus Rex should have been the last dinosaur it builds to, but instead it feels like it's in reverse. The Indominus, and then it gets smaller with the Indoraptor, and then the Giganotosaurus. Like, I feel like something's off there. The worst part of Dominion, I would say, is probably the Malta scene. I liked a lot of the black market stuff they had with the dinosaurs. It was interesting, but that whole section of the movie kind of just dragged. I wasn't very intrigued with it because I knew Chris Pratt wasn't going to die on the motorcycle. I knew the dinosaurs weren't going to catch him. He was going to get to the other island and such. So it was just kind of like a lot of nothing action. But there are some actual good action set pieces in here too, like real tension as well. I liked the part when Dawson was walking through the tunnel, as I mentioned earlier. That was pretty tense. The scene with Bryce Dallas Howard with the Therizinosaurus was also very interesting. I like the camera work there. And the scene with the Giganotosaurus, the car scene, was really great actually. And I loved when Ian threw the fire stick into that. That was so badass. It was a great callback to the original. And really, that's what this movie is. Like, it's a callback to the original, but you know what? It's nostalgia done right. It's not pandering. It actually adds layers to the characters. And as I said, continues things. And you can go back and watch the original trilogy now, and you can feel better about it because you know where they're going going to end up. And overall, like I said, Jurassic World Dominion, it's not a perfect movie, it's not a great movie, but it is by far the best of the World series, and I don't understand how people don't see it that way. But thank you guys so much for watching, though. Please rate, comment, and subscribe. Give it a big thumbs up during this video. Also, though, guys, tell me down below, what do you think? Do you like Dominion? Do you like Fallen Kingdom better? Do you like the original Jurassic World better? Or how would you even rank it with the other 3 Jurassic Park films? But thank you guys so much for watching again, though, and Goodyear 5400, as always, out.